My name is Megan Harper, and I am 28 years old. I'm a project coordinator at a logistics firm in Columbus, Ohio. And for the last 3.5 years, I've been paying my parents' mortgage every single month in silence. Last Friday night, I was sitting at my parents' dining table in Worthington. 20 relatives were there, cousins, aunts, uncles, all laughing, all clinking glasses. My brother Derek, the golden child, stood up with his wine and said, loud enough for the whole room, it's funny. Megan still lives in that shoebox apartment, but she walks in here like she owns the place. He locked eyes with me and smirked. Oh wait, you can't afford this house. You can barely afford your own rent, can you? The family charity case. I saw my mother stare at her plate, her fork frozen midair. My father just cleared his throat and muttered, Derek, let's not make a scene. That was it. No one corrected him. No one said my name except to bury it in laughter. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I nodded once, folded my napkin, and stood up so calmly you'd think I was heading to the kitchen for dessert. I walked out of that dining room, into the foyer, and pulled my phone from my pocket. Under the glow of the hallway light, I opened the Huntington Bank app. I scrolled to the recurring transfer, 1-500 to Great Midwest Mortgage, and pressed cancel. The screen flashed, transfer canceled. Recurring payments stopped. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, took one long breath, and turned slowly toward the dining room door. Before I tell you what happened after I canceled that payment, tell me, what time is it where you are? Where are you watching from, and what is the weather like there? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. 48 hours earlier, Thursday, November 7th, 2024, I was curled up on my worn IKEA sofa, in my tiny one-bedroom apartment. The November chill leaked through the windows, and I pulled a blanket tight around my shoulders. I opened the same bank app that night, but for a different reason. I needed to see the proof. Payment number 42 had cleared the 3rd of the month, just like clockwork. 63,000. I stared at the number and felt my chest cave in. I remembered August 3rd, 2021, sitting on this same couch, when Derek stood in our parents' kitchen and promised he'd handle everything. He never lifted a finger, so I quietly stepped in, no fanfare, no credit. The loan is still in Patricia and Robert Harper's names, but my account is the only one that ever made a payment. Later that evening, I opened Instagram, scrolling on autopilot. And then I froze. Derek had posted 6 days earlier, a shiny photo of the Laurel Avenue house, golden light spilling from the windows. The whole crew, grateful for the ones who really support us, had tagged 26 people, every cousin, every neighbor, even the family dog's account. The only Harper missing was me. I clicked off the phone and stared at the water-stained ceiling. 42 months of silent sacrifice, and I was erased with a single post. I tried to shake it off, I really did. But that erased girl feeling, it followed me to work on Friday morning like a storm cloud I couldn't outrun. I was at my desk at Hilliard Tech Solutions, staring at a vendor schedule that needed updating for the Henderson account. Project coordinator, that's what the little plaque on my cubicle wall says. It means I juggle a dozen calendars, 3 time zones, and a rotating cast of sales reps who can't spell their own names. Thrilling stuff. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. The overhead fluorescents hummed that familiar headache-inducing buzz, and somewhere down the hall, Kevin from logistics was arguing with a printer again. Typical Friday. Then my phone vibrated, a text from Aunt Linda. I almost didn't check it. Linda's messages are usually chain letters about angels or blurry photos of her cats. But a split second later, my brain registered the preview. I saw my name. Sort of. I unlocked the screen, and my whole body went numb. Derek says she's useless and overpaid for what she does. This dinner is going to be hilarious. Can't wait to see her face. Her face. It was supposed to go to Patricia. But I was the only one Linda ever called useless. The only one they loved to humiliate at family dinners. Those little jabs disguised as concern. Megan, maybe you'd find a husband faster if you dressed like you cared. Megan, your job is so cute. What do you actually do all day? My fingers felt ice cold against the screen. I took a screenshot, then another, just to be safe. Something in my gut told me to scroll up, so I did. And that's when I found it, a group chat. Harper Family Positivity. What a joke. Derek, Aunt Linda, Patricia. Months and months of messages, sitting right there like a wound I never knew I had. Look at her sad little Honda. Can't even afford a real car. I give her 3 months before they find someone competent. Her face at the last cookout when we said we were full. Priceless. She's not family, she's a charity case who never left. Charity case. That word again. The same one Derek used at the dinner table when he thought I was in the bathroom. My chest tightened so hard I forgot to breathe. This wasn't just one mean aunt with a wandering thumb. This was a dedicated campaign. A safe space for the people who were supposed to love me, to tear me apart for sport. I saved every single message, screenshot after screenshot, methodically, like my fingers belonged to someone else entirely. Then I locked the phone and stared at it, lying there next to my half-empty mug, cold coffee and colder truths. The printer argument down the hall faded into nothing. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, banging against my ribs. And one thought, so sharp it cut through everything else. I had been paying their mortgage for 3.5 years. And this whole time, this whole God-forsaken time, they were laughing at me. I pushed back from the desk so hard the chair legs screamed against the hardwood, but I didn't care anymore. My phone, that little glass slab of betrayal, I slipped into my back pocket. The printer argument down the hall had died down to a low murmur. Good. Let them fight over toner cartridges. I had something much, much bigger to discuss. My footsteps on the stairs felt like hammers. Each creak of the old wood announced me, but I didn't try to be quiet. I wanted them to hear me coming. I wanted them to know I was still in this house, still breathing their air, still a person they had grossly, fatally underestimated. Downstairs, the kitchen light was a harsh, fluorescent buzz. Derek was leaning against the counter, arms crossed, a vein twitching in his forehead. Aunt Linda was jabbing a finger at the printer on the breakfast bar, her voice sharp like broken glass. For the last time, Derek, I didn't touch the magenta cartridge. You probably used it for your stupid fantasy football charts. Oh, please, Linda. My fantasy league is none of your concern. Just order more ink on my account. It's not that complicated. He always said my account like it meant something. Like everything under this roof belonged to him. I stepped into the doorway, and the hinges moaned. Both of them turned, their argument suddenly forgotten. Linda's face did something strange, a flash of guilt before it smoothed into that fake sweet smile she always gave me at book club. Derek's eyes narrowed, suspicious. Megan, we were just discussing the printer. You wouldn't believe how much ink this thing eats through. I didn't smile back. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out steady, almost bored. I know, Derek. It's a real drain on resources, like a lot of things around here. He tilted his head, clearly not picking up the edge in my tone. Yeah, well, I'll get it sorted. Did you need something? I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms to mirror him. Actually, yes. I was just going over my finances upstairs. You know, checking bank apps, that kind of thing. And I realized something pretty wild. Linda put her hand over her heart in that theatrical way she does. Oh, sweetheart, I hope everything is okay. These economic times are just terrible. I let out a laugh, short and dry, like the snap of a twig. Oh, my finances are fine. Better than fine. I was just reviewing some automatic payments. You know, the ones you set up once, and then forget about for years. Does the number 1500 ring any bells? The silence that fell was so complete I could hear the refrigerator humming. Derek's face lost a little color. He uncrossed his arms, hands dropping to grip the edge of the counter. Linda looked between us, her smile now frozen, her eyes wide. I just waited, letting the number hang there, heavy and poisonous. What number? Derek's voice was a notch too high. What are you talking about, Megan? What am I talking about? I tapped my chin, pretending to think. I'm talking about the 1,500 that leaves my checking account every single month and lands in your mortgage lender's pocket. For 3.5 years, Derek. That's over 60 grand, my money, going right into this house, the house you're standing in, arguing about magenta ink. Linda's jaw worked, but no sound came out. I could practically see the group chat messages flashing behind her eyes, all those little jokes about the charity case. Derek's Adam's apple bobbed. He took a step toward me, and I held up my hand, palm flat, stopping him cold. Don't you dare come any closer. And don't you dare try to lie to me right now. I saw the payments, all 42 of them. Every single one cleared promptly on the first of the month, rain or shine, and I realized something else while I was sitting up there. I've been paying for your roof, your walls, your goddamn printer ink, while your family group chat calls me names, while your wife sends me texts meant for someone else, calling me an embarrassment. Linda gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. That was an accident. My phone, it's... Accident? I cut her off, pulling my phone from my pocket and waving the screenshot in their faces. You accidentally typed those words, Linda? You accidentally created an entire group chat, labeled the core crew, and accidentally forgot to include me? For years? Accidents, sure. But the mortgage? That was no accident. That was a plan. And I want to know, right now, whose plan it was. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He looked at Linda, then back at me, and for the first time in all the years I'd known him, he had absolutely nothing arrogant to say. The king of the family dinner roast was utterly speechless. I let the silence stretch, severing the way their guilt filled the room like smoke. Then I dropped my hand, pocketed my phone, and took a step back into the hall. The front door was just 20 feet away. I had a lot to do. Cancel payment number 43. Call a lawyer. Bury them in the truth they thought they'd safely hidden in a dead old woman's back account. But I couldn't leave without one final, perfect line. Something they'd remember while they were packing their boxes. You know, I said, my voice steady as stone, I may be a charity case to you. But as of this moment, the charity is closed. Effective immediately. Good luck affording this place on your own. I hear mortgages are a real drain on resources. I didn't wait for a reply. I turned, walked down the hallway, and pulled open the front door. The night air hit my face, cool and clean, and I stepped out, leaving the door wide open behind me. Let them freeze. Let them figure out how to pay their own damn bills. I was done being their silent, paying punchline, and I started my car. A new thought crystallized, sharp and thrilling. If they thought the group chat was funny, wait until they saw what I was going to do next. The next afternoon, Saturday, I walked into the Kroger on Wilson Bridge Road. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and my cart had one thing in it, 2 bottles of Apothic Red, tucked under my arm like a shield. I wasn't shopping, I was hiding. Hiding from the sight of that open front door, hiding from the group chat burning a hole in my phone, and most of all, hiding from the silence Derek left behind when I walked out. The checkout scanner beeped. Total, $27.83. Such a small, unremarkable number, except it wasn't. Because the second I saw that total, my brain yanked me straight back to my parents' back porch last month. I had been inside, grabbing a glass of water, when I heard Derek's voice drifting through the screen door. He was talking to Dad, all smooth and proud, he said. He said I refinanced the house, got the rate below 3%. Saved us a fortune, Robert. My hand had frozen on the faucet. Refinanced? I knew that was a lie. I knew it because I still had access to the mortgage portal. They never changed the login, and just out of pure, nagging suspicion, I'd checked it the week before. The rate was 4.25%. No refinance paperwork. No nothing. And yet there he was, lying through his polished teeth, and Dad was probably nodding along, grateful. At the checkout, I swiped my card. The receipt curled out of the machine, and I grabbed the wine without looking at the cashier. My heart was pounding, not from anger this time, but from a new, cold curiosity. If Derek lied about the refinance, what else was he lying about? And how deep did the rot go? I pushed through the automatic doors into the gray November air. The parking lot was half empty, wet leaves plastered to the pavement. I sat in my car, engine off, and stared at my phone. Dad's contact photo smiled back at me, a picture from 2 summers ago, before everything turned into this mess. I took a breath and my thumbs started moving before my brain could stop them. Hey Dad, quick question, what did the bank say when Derek refinanced the house? Sent. I watched the little checkmark appear, then turn blue. Read. The 3 dots started dancing. Then they stopped, started again, stopped. I leaned my head against the cold window, waiting. I didn't know it yet, but the reply that was coming, it was about to crack open every secret the Harper family had, and I was standing right at the edge of the blast zone. My phone buzzed against the passenger seat, shattering the silence like a gunshot. Dad's name lit up the screen, not a call, just a text. My thumb hovered for a second, heart slamming against my ribs. Before I swiped it open, the words stared back at me, cold and clinical. He said it was all handled over the phone. I never saw any paperwork. Why do you ask? I read it 3 times, letting each word sink into my bloodstream. Handled over the phone. No paperwork. Derek had looked me straight in the eye and lied about refinancing the house, lied to Dad, lied about everything, and I finally had the proof trembling in my hands. The blast zone wasn't cracking open, it was detonating right there in my lap. I didn't reply, not yet. I needed to breathe to let the rage crystallize into something I could wield without shattering. So I drove. Muscle memory took me to the 7-Eleven on High Street, a block from Le Chateau Bistro, because that's where I always parked when my hands were too shaky to pull into valet. 40 p.m. The dinner was in 20 minutes. I killed the engine and sat there in the flickering fluorescent glow, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the little screen. I opened my bank app again, the one ritual that still belonged to me. 42 withdrawals, every single one a funny 500, silent scream. December 3rd, November 3rd, October 3rd. The list scrolled like a rosary of betrayal, and I recited each date under my breath until my pulse slowed and my jaw unlocked. That house had my money, my discipline, my sacrifice poured into its walls, and Derek Harper wanted to erase me from the family photo while cashing my checks. Now Dad's words were the shovel, and I was about to bury them all. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked sharper than they had in years, like the fog had finally burned off. I didn't feel nervous anymore. I felt lethal. The clock on the dash ticked to 6:52. I put the Civic in drive and rolled toward the restaurant, the tires humming over wet pavement. Le Chateau's golden letters reflected in my windshield, all warm and deceptive, like the Harper family itself. I pulled into the lot, found a space far from the entrance, and killed the lights. For a long moment I just sat there, the 2 bottles of Apothic Red I'd bought at Kroger still tucked in the back seat, a peace offering I now knew I'd never uncork. I stepped out into the cool evening air, smoothed down my blazer, and locked the car. The valet nodded at me, but I didn't see him. I saw Derek's face, Aunt Linda's cackling texts, the core crew chat that thought I was invisible. They were all inside that building, running their mouths, thinking they'd won. They didn't know I was walking in with 42 receipts and a father's confession. They didn't know the charity case had already closed the account. The hostess smiled as I walked through the double doors, but I barely registered her face. The scent of garlic butter and seared steak hit me, mixed with the low murmur of dinner conversation and clinking wine glasses. And there they were, at the long table in the back, perfectly framed under those stupid amber pendant lights, like a family portrait from hell. Derek had positioned himself at the head of the table, of course. Patricia sat to his right, Robert to his left, his eyes already fixed on his silverware, like it held the secrets of the universe. Aunt Linda was mid-loaf, her martini glass tilted dangerously, while Derek's girlfriend Jenna scrolled through her phone looking bored. Some cousin I'd met maybe twice sat awkwardly at the far end, clearly regretting every life choice that led her here. And then there was the empty chair, all the way at the opposite end from Derek, pushed against the swinging kitchen door, directly in line with the server's traffic path. Every 30 seconds, a busboy would burst through, and the chair would rattle. Derek spotted me first, his grin spreading slow and deliberate like he'd been rehearsing it all week. "Megan, finally. We saved you the seat with the best views." He gestured toward the kitchen door with his wine glass, and Linda snorted into her martini. "Best views in the house," she echoed, not even trying to hide her smirk. Robert's fork remained the most fascinating object in the room. He didn't look up. Not once. I felt every eyeball on me, waiting for me to protest, to make a scene, to confirm everything they'd already written about me in that group chat. The charity case who couldn't take a joke, the emotional one, the problem. I didn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I walked slowly to the table, set both bottles of Apothic Red down with a solid thunk, and slid into the chair like it was a throne. The kitchen door swung open behind me, a gust of steam and noise, and I didn't flinch. I reached for the closer bottle, twisted off the cap, and poured myself a generous glass. The deep crimson swirl caught the light, and I let the silence stretch just long enough to be uncomfortable. Jenna finally looked up from her phone. The cousin shifted in her seat. Linda's smirk flickered, just for a second, because I hadn't reacted the way she expected. Derek was still grinning, but it had tightened around the edges, the way a liar's smile always does when they're not sure they're winning anymore. So I said, raising my glass toward the table, my voice calm and steady as still water, "What did I miss?" Nobody answered. Robert's fork finally stilled, and somewhere in my bag, my phone sat heavy with 42 screenshots and a text message from Dad that none of them knew existed yet. The silence that followed my toast stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Derek's tight smile didn't reach his eyes, and I could see the calculation happening behind them. He needed to regain control, to make sure everyone knew I was still the punchline. Then he lifted his glass, my wine, the wine I'd bought, poured for him, and he was about to use it as a prop for my humiliation. "Must be nice," he announced, his voice carrying to the tables around us, "to coast on a dead-end job while some of us carry actual families." Linda's snicker was immediate, a sharp little sound like a needle puncturing skin. Patricia's eyes dropped to her plate, as if the mashed potatoes held the secrets of the universe. Robert's mouth opened, a fish gasping for air that wasn't coming, and I watched him decide, again, that silence was easier than standing up to his son. Something inside me went very, very still. Not cold, exactly. Clear, like a camera lens snapping into perfect focus. I set my napkin on the table, the linen smooth under my fingers. No rush, no shaking hands. I pulled out my phone, the screen glowing in the restaurant's dim lighting. I slid it back into my purse, stood up, and reached into the side pocket. The Crudorger receipt was still there, crisp and damning, with 2 bottles of Apothic Red and the timestamp from this afternoon. I placed it next to his plate, right beside the wine glass he'd been toasting with. "You'll need this," I said. My voice didn't shake. "It's the last thing I'm ever buying for this family." The words hung there, solid as a closing door. I didn't wait for a reaction. I didn't need one. I'd had 42 months of reactions, and none of them had ever been honest. The November night hit my face as I pushed through the bistro doors, cold and sharp and wonderful. The sky was that deep winter black, the kind that makes stars look closer, and for the first time in years, I could breathe all the way down into my lungs. Behind me, Le Chateau Bistro was still and silent, full of people who'd just realized they'd been living in a house I'd been paying for, drinking wine I'd provided, and they had no idea what to do with the woman who finally stopped pretending it was fine. The parking lot asphalt glittered with frost under the orange streetlights. I climbed into my car, slammed the door, and just sat there breathing. The leather of the steering wheel was ice cold against my fingers. Through the windshield, Le Chateau Bistro looked like a dollhouse full of people I used to know, used to love, used to bleed for, and it felt so damn good to be outside it. I grabbed my phone, 8:33 p.m. No messages from inside. They were probably still sitting there, mouths open, trying to figure out how to pay for dinner without me. I almost laughed. Almost. But the pain was still too raw, a splinter under my skin, and anger was the only anesthetic that worked. I opened my email app and started composing a new message. I typed each address slowly, deliberately. Patricia, Robert, Linda. No greeting. No bullshit. This wasn't a conversation, it was a reckoning. The attachments were my witness stand. 42 bank statements, one by one, each proving that $1,500 left my account every month like clockwork, while Derek bought designer ties and spun stories about refinancing Angie. Then I added the screenshots. The group chat, the core crew, Aunt Linda's mistaken text calling me a leech, Derek's Instagram post with the perfect family photo I wasn't worthy of, the Kroger receipt for the apothec red, the last gift I'd ever give them. And finally, the cancellation confirmation from Huntington, the grenade with the pin pulled. My thumb paused for a second over the screen. I whispered to myself, 3.5 years, Megan, 3.5 years of being invisible while they toasted their good luck. No more. I typed the body of the email, my fingers so steady I barely recognized them. I didn't coast on a dead-end job. I've been paying your mortgage for 3.5 years while Derek took the credit. The next payment is due December 3rd. It won't be coming. Good luck. That was all. No explanation, no apology, just facts and a goodbye. I hit send. The screen flashed. Done. The email shot out into the night like a bullet, and I sat back, heart pounding, as if I'd just fired it myself. A strange feeling settled over me then, not peace exactly, but a quiet certainty. I'd set fire to the bridge, and I didn't need to watch it burn. I turned the key, the engine growled to life, and I pulled out of the parking lot. The roads were empty, December darkness swallowing the streetlights. I drove past the 7-Eleven where I'd nearly lost my nerve, past the Kroger where I'd bought the wine with trembling hands, and by the time I reached my apartment building, the city was silent. My footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Inside my unit, I locked the door, set my keys down softly, and stood in the dark for a minute. The fridge hummed, the heater clicked on, no phone calls, no texts. The silence was the cleanest thing I'd heard in years. I didn't need a reply. I'd told my truth, and whatever happened next, it wouldn't happen on my dime anymore. The mortgage was due December 3rd, and for the first time in my life, I was praying it crashed right down on their heads. The first voicemail arrived at 8:14 Sunday morning. Patricia's voice was already cracking, already drunk on grief she'd never once shown me in person. Megan, honey, please call me back. I don't even understand what happened last night. The second voicemail at 9:02 was pure trembling. Your brother says terrible things about you, but this feels like a war. The third at 10:47 was just breathing and a whispered I'm sorry. The fourth at noon was all Terry demands. You owe us a conversation. You can't just walk away from family. I listened to all four while sitting on my kitchen floor, bare feet on cold tile, coffee growing lukewarm in my hands. Then Robert's text came through, clean, direct. Is it true? All of it? I opened my bank app. I scrolled back to August 2021, found payment number 1, and screenshot it. 42 transactions, each one a receipt for the roof over their heads, the meals on their table, the driveway Derek parked his new lease in. I sent the image without a single word. He read it immediately, said nothing back. Monday morning, the war moved to Facebook. Linda posted a status at 7:15 a.m., something dripping with curated sorrow. Trust is a fragile thing. It shatters once, and you spend years picking up the pieces. 12 relatives liked it within an hour. 11 hearts. One crying emoji from cousin Diane, who hasn't spoken to me since I was 17. Linda's carefully staged performance, all poetry and no detail, leaving everyone to fill in the blanks with whatever villain fit me best. Derek didn't bother with poetry. His text blew up my phone while I was driving to work. How dare you blindside us like that? Dad was humiliated. I can't believe you'd stoop this low. You've always been dictative, Megan, always playing the martyr. The notifications kept piling up, each one a tiny grenade of self-pity twisted into attack. I didn't read them past the previews. I just pulled into the parking lot, turned off the engine, and sat there as the vibration in my pocket slowly died down. Jenna unfriended me before lunch. Every platform, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, like she was scrubbing professional association with me from her digital life. I almost laughed. The woman who borrowed my car twice last year, who asked for my Netflix password, like it was some sacred bond of sisterhood, pressed one button and erased me completely. I didn't block anyone. I muted the notifications, silenced the threads, and went inside to do my job. 8 hours of spreadsheets and meetings and coffee breaks where I kept my phone face down on the laminate countertop. By 5 o'clock when I drove home, the silence felt different than before. Not hollow, not lonely. Clear, like a window I'd finally scraped the grime off of. That evening, I opened my email, found the autopay confirmation for payment 42, and deleted it forever. No forwarding, no archive. Just gone. The cancellation was already set, the wheels already in motion, and whatever bombshell landed on Derek's front porch come December 3rd, I wasn't going to be standing anywhere near the blast radius. Tuesday evening, November 12th, 6:30. I was on my couch, half watching some forgettable Netflix drama, when the first blow landed against my apartment door. Not a knock. A fist. Heavy, desperate. The kind of sound that makes your heart skip. Megan, open this door. I froze. I knew that voice. Derek. I crept to the door, peered through the peephole. His face was warped in that tiny fisheye lens, red and sweating, eyes wide with something between panic and rage. He pounded again, shaking the frame. You need to tell Mom and Dad you lied. Undo this, Megan. You don't understand what you've done. I said nothing. I just watched him through that little glass circle, his twisted mouth, the vein pulsing in his forehead. My hands trembled, but I didn't unlock the deadbolt. I didn't make a sound. I backed away from the door, walked to the couch, and sat down. His fists kept hammering, his voice growing hoarse. Threatening, then pleading, then threatening again. I let him scream. I let the neighbors hear every pathetic word. I let him dig his own grave in that hallway. After maybe 10 minutes, his shouting got interrupted by another voice, the building manager, called by someone on this floor. A brief, muffled argument, then silence. I stood up, pulled the sealed envelope from my desk drawer, the one I'd prepared Monday night. Every bank statement, every screenshot, the cancellation confirmation, all of it printed clean. I walked back to the door, crouched, and slid that envelope under the gap, into the hallway. It whispered across the floor, then stopped. Silence. I watched through the peephole as Derek stared down at the paper. He picked it up, opened it. I saw his face change. The red drained away. His jaw went slack. Then footsteps. Quiet, retreating. I sat back down on the couch, and for the first time in years, I smiled. Not a triumphant smile. Just the quiet satisfaction of finally closing a door that should have been slammed shut a decade ago. The silence lasted 3 days. Then, on December 9th, my phone buzzed at 7:42 in the morning. Mom's voice shook. "Megan, there's a letter from the bank. A default notice. The mortgage payment never went through." I sat up on the couch, still in my clothes from the night before. "I know, Mom. I canceled it." A long pause. You what?" "I canceled the autopay. Derek was never paying for anything. It was always me. 42 months of it." She made a sound like a wounded bird. "But he told us, he said he refinanced. He lied." "Yes, he lied." Later that day, Mom called again. She was in the kitchen, Dad was there. He put Derek on speakerphone. I listened from my end, not saying a word. Dad's voice, low and dangerous. "Son, explain the mortgage payments." Derek scrambled. "There's an investment account. The money's in there, I just need to..." "No, son, there is no account." "But I was going to..." I had a plan, then his voice just snapped. "I never made a single payment. I couldn't. I'm sorry." The line hummed with silence. I heard Mom crying. Then Dad said, "We're done." I hung up before anyone could ask me to feel sorry. Because I didn't. Not for them. Within 10 days, the house at 84 Laurel Avenue had a realtor's sign in the front yard. My parents packed what they could and drove east to a cramped spare bare bedroom in Aunt Linda's house in Delaware, Ohio. Mom's gardenias, Dad's leather chair, all the photos of a life they thought they had, gone. I didn't drive over to say goodbye. I don't know if they wanted me to. But that night, I cooked myself a real dinner. Steak, asparagus, a glass of red wine. And I ate it in silence, at my own table, with no one telling me I didn't belong. That door was finally closed. A week before Christmas, I drove past 84 Laurel Avenue one last time. The for sale sign tilted in the frozen grass, ice clinging to the metal post like it was trying to drag it under. I slowed the car, just for a second. The windows were dark. The flower beds where Mom's gardenias used to be, empty, dirt and dead leaves. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel anything sharp, just a slow, heavy relief, settling into my bones like the cold outside the windshield. I still had my job, my apartment, my sanity. That felt like enough. Hell, that felt like everything. The family group chat had been deleted. No dramatic farewell, no final message. One day it was just gone. Linda can't look at me at family gatherings. She stares at her potato salad like it holds the secrets of the universe. Derek avoids me completely now, and honestly, I'm fine with that. My parents stopped asking me to fix things. They know there's nothing left to fix. I pulled into the Kroger on Wilson Bridge Road. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few other tired souls grabbing last-minute eggnog and wrapping paper. I walked inside, went straight to the wine aisle, and picked up a single bottle of Apothic Red, one, just for me. At home, I poured a glass at my kitchen counter. The apartment was quiet. No pounding on the door, no voicemails full of pleading or rage. I sat on my stool, raised the glass to no one, and drank. For the first time in 42 months, every single dollar in my bank account belonged to me. No hidden withdrawals. No silent mortgage payments bleeding my future dry. Just mine. That quiet was better than any apology anyone could ever offer. Looking back now, I know I didn't just cancel a mortgage that night. I canceled a contract I'd signed in my heart when I was a little girl, desperate to be seen. I learned that being invisible isn't a fate you endure, it's a choice you stop making. The moment I stopped paying for their version of me, I started finding my own. Every dollar I save now is a dollar of my own future. Every breath I take isn't for their approval. You don't have to make a scene to reclaim yourself. You just have to stop funding the lie. If this story moved you, share your own story in the comments. Hit like and subscribe. I read every comment. Until next time, don't let anyone treat you like a bank.